What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Game Informer Show, a weekly podcast covering the video game industry. Join us every Thursday for a discussion about the latest gaming news, reviews, and exclusive reveals alongside Game Informer staff and special guests from around the industry. I'm your host, Alex Van Aken, and today I'm joined by Marcus Stewart. How you doing, Marcus?
I'm doing fantabuloso.
Oh.
You know, like the cleaning, juice, fantabuloso.
Your Grammarly score is going to shoot up after that one, let me tell you.
Yeah, they're going to cancel my account for that word.
Yeah. do you get those emails where it's like, you're in the 94th percentile of vocabulary users?
Yeah, and I got like achievements apparently too.
Oh, I didn't know they had gamer score.
Yeah, no, like legit. They have like weird badges that you get, or like, hey, you spelled this many words correct. Here's a achievement.
Hold on, I gotta. Okay.
The gamer's kicking in like, I gotta know my score now.
Yeah,
I don't know
for
if they have
real.
a score attached to it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah, Grammarly's speaking our language now.
Yeah. And rounding us out today, Charles Hart. How you doing, Charles?
Hello, I am doing Clorox.
Oh, I don't recommend that.
Sorry, you say Fantabuloso is like a cleaning brand?
Yeah, or I'm probably mispronouncing it horribly, but yes.
Okay, that was my joke. I was giving a different cleaning brand.
Do you have COVID? Is that why you're doing Clorox?
Okay, no, this is bad. I'm doing Tide.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I thought that phase was over.
Yeah.
I thought the internet had moved.
Apparently not. I pulled up my Grammarly stats, y'all. People don't know Grammarly is a plugin that you can pay for that helps you with improvements of your writing. It's like a very smart spell check.
They should really sponsor us.
They should sponsor us.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm looking. Okay, I've got my analytics pulled up for Grammarly. Okay. Active team members, 8 out of 9. So one of us isn't using Grammarly at all.
Who do we think it is?
I'm using it.
I'm using it. I mean, we all said we have achievements.
A lot of articles. Yeah, I prove a lot of who looks like they have.
Do you think it's Blake?
Blake seems like.
Do you think
Blake
it's
tends
Brian?
to go against the grain a lot. I can see Blake.
I feel like Blake.
Yeah, but Blake is also a fan of efficiency, I feel like, you know? Maybe. I don't know.
He's a really good editor on his own. Like, he doesn't need Grammarly.
Yeah, but like,
he's good.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really a compliment, Blake, that you're not using it. It's what if you're listening. We're not hating on you. It's like you're so good that you don't need it. I feel like I've heard him say like outright that he's like, though he usually recommends everyone else use it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's Miller. Maybe Big Boss.
No, Miller's always like,
he is.
He's got the Grammarly hammer. He's like, run it through a pass of that before you run it to somebody else. Because we're a small team, you know.
This is some real inside baseball to start.
Yeah,
this like literally in my like interview before I joined here, he mentioned Grammarly. Like,
what do you remember feelings on Grammarly?
I remember being like, all right, I guess I got to get this thing because it's a big game. If I want to be a big real reporter.
He asked you how many badges you had. He's like, you need to have this amount of badges to get hired.
But here, Grammarly isn't perfect though. Here's this stat from April 2nd to May 1st. Your team addressed 36% of writing suggestions. There was a total of 85,000 suggestions. We addressed 30,000 of them, and we dismissed or unresolved the others. My personal this is our team's tone. Top 3 tones used by your team: 34% informative, 12% confident.
Hell yeah.
6% informal.
Oh,
that's probably you, Marcus. You're a little jokey writer over there.
Can you can be formal and jokey, right? Can you tell a formal joke?
Yeah, maybe you are a formal jokester. I don't know.
I go to black tie affairs and I'm just cutting up there, just real.
What is this? What is this? Caviar?
Was that the joke?
Hey, all of you laughed, so it must have counted as a joke.
Yeah.
I like that. It's like caviar.
Oh, well, this is a video game podcast, y'all. I don't want to hold us up any longer. I know Grammarly is riveting. You know, I could talk about it all day long. But it's a video game podcast, and I want to talk about, just to start the show off, video game collectibles. Because I just sold a lot of them this past week.
Physical collectibles.
Physical collectibles. Yeah.
Okay.
Physical collector's items, or just like, yeah. I recently, this past week, purged a lot of my GameCube collection because I was never using it. And I'm a person who I really don't, if you saw my closet, you wouldn't believe this, but I really don't like holding on to things that I don't use. I always feel like it's a waste of like money or resources. Like, well, if this is just sitting here, you know, I could put this to use somewhere else, right? Maybe it served me at one point in time, but now, you know, it doesn't. And that's kind of where I was with my GameCube, because a lot of the games that I originally bought for the GameCube, I've either played or are now on Switch Online or other places. And so I was like, you know what? This is just taking up a lot of space. I could probably get some money for it. And so I sold it. And I don't have any regrets. I don't think I sold the GameCube to Suriel, or parts of it to Suriel.
Now, what games are we talking here? Because I did see you post that on Twitter, and there was a half second where I almost texted you.
Yeah.
But then stopped myself because I was like,
saved my personal favorites. So I ended up keeping 2 games. And I think only 2. I kept 2 games. I didn't have a ton. I had like Metroid Prime. That's probably like the biggest Nintendo one I had.
Yeah, you got that remaster now, so that's probably a little easier to let go.
Previously I had Super Mario Sunshine, but then the Switch version came out, so I got rid of that. Because I'm just like, I'm about efficiency, right?
Right.
I want access, and like, as long as it's like pretty close to the original experience, I'm good, you know? So these are the 2 games I kept for like nostalgia's sake. Number 1, Simpsons Hit and Run. This is one of my favorite games of all time. I love this game.
I just saw a Twitter post about that game earlier today too. It's
really
no coincidence. Yeah, it was basically someone reminding you like this is really like a GTA clone, like one of the strangest GTA clones of its day.
Yeah, I love this. Like, unironically, this game is awesome, and I recommend playing it if you haven't before. And then I kept this one for obvious reasons. NBA Street Volume 2.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of you that you have that.
Yeah, I looked it up. This thing sells for like $45.
Yeah. Wait, Charles, you've never played NBA Street? Are you
No, I grew up right after, like, my parents didn't play video games and I didn't really have friends that did. So my first like console was the Wii. So I didn't have GameCube stuff until like later when I started going back to it, but definitely not basketball games.
Oh man, NBA Street,
Oh,
you didn't have to be a basketball fan. Like a lot of people that love those games were not sports fans. They were just super fun, arcadey style basketball games, really colorful graphics. Like I miss that series so much.
Yeah, here's the back of the box. Here's what it says. Bigger than life moves. Because the thing was like you did all these trick moves, and it was like street basketball rules where it wasn't like a traditional basketball game. It was super fun, arcadey. But these are the back of the box quotes. Hook up for a 4-man showdown. Bring it on, authentic urban courts. Old school returns with NBA legends.
Finally.
All new signature moves and above the rim gameplay. Which is,
I don't know what that means.
Isn't that all basketball?
Yeah.
Like
I hope so.
Ideally, you want the ball to go above the rim, and in it too. Any review quotes from Game Informer on that thing?
No, they didn't have any review quotes on the back of this.
Okay,
it's just there's probably a Game of the Year version or something that did.
Right, back in the base. Man, seeing that EA big logo takes me back.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, we need to should do a super replay of NBA Street somehow.
Well, I just sold the way that we could have.
We have a Wii.
No, we have a bunch of. I also part of my justification was like, if I really need to play these games, I could just go to storage and access the Game Informer vault, and like, you know, if we needed to do something with it.
Yeah, that's actually why I didn't text you for your GameCube. I was like, I have a Wii. It plays GameCube games. It works fine. I don't need two GameCube playing machines.
Yeah. And then, you know, this kind of fits in well with, I wanted to talk about that, but also, Charles, you got something this week that you were showing us before we recorded.
Well, I want to jump back real quick.
Okay, yeah.
Just on the note of GameCube games, so I was saying I didn't grow up with a GameCube. But I had a Wii. I played Wind Waker, like a GameCube copy of Wind Waker, before the Wii U version came out. So I have that.
That's a good one.
It's a great one. One of the best, one might say. And the game I wanted, I don't really know why. I really like Spider-Man games. And list of the best Spider-Man games, Ultimate Spider-Man for the GameCube / PlayStation 2 would come up.
That game's good.
I had never played, but I liked the art style, and I always kind of wanted it, but it was like on Amazon, it was like $100, and I was like, it's not really worth it. But
is it really?
It's like kind of silly because it's not on anything else. I think the PS2 version is also cheaper than the GameCube version.
Okay, because I still have the PS2, my PS2 launch copy. So I was like, am I sitting on money here?
Hold on, which game? I'm looking it up on eBay.
Ultimate Spider-Man.
GameCube?
GameCube. Thank God.
Holy cow, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
Although I see...
I'm sure you could get it without the box much cheaper.
I found one that is... There's a lot of people who think they have something really special here, and other people who are more realistic. I'm seeing a buy it now on eBay for $47.
Okay.
I mean, that's still...
But I also see a 90 to 113 on another listing.
Do they all have the case and all that stuff?
This one has case. The $47 one has case and manual.
Oh, manual matters.
And disc.
I got mine. I found it. I found a copy of this at like a secondhand game store. I got it, and it's like the store's called Second and Charles. I don't know if it exists. If that's
Second and Charles.
Okay, yeah. Second and Charles and me.
Oh.
So there's like a game section there, but it's like mostly books.
It's pretty small too. The game section.
Yeah, and this one had Ultimate Spider-Man. I found it. It was like $39. Now it's like,
damn.
Where else am I gonna find this? Bought it, brought it home. Disc didn't work. Fast forward a few weeks, I get the disc resurfaced. It does work. So now I have it. I played probably 30 minutes of it. And I was like, wow, this is not aged well. It was I was going to ask. Loud. It didn't feel. It's also so hard to play a different Spider-Man game after the Insomniac ones, which feel so good.
Yeah.
And I don't at all regret getting it or the journey of it, but I was like, I can't wait for my brother to come home from studying abroad. We're gonna play this together, and then I will probably not touch it again. But unlike Alex, I have no desire to get rid of it. It's kind of like my goal.
No. I kept the ones that mattered to me, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not soulless. I'm not heartless.
I remember Ultimate Spider-Man was very much building upon that 2000 Spider-Man 2 with the web swinging. But it just had that cool cel-shaded art style because it was based on the Ultimate comics that were going on at the time, which I loved. So I was like super. I mean, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan to begin with, but I remember being pretty into that game, even though I think overall it's like a good B game, you know?
Sure,
yeah. And I mean, it looked cool at the time with the cell shading.
The thing that really put me off of it is like there's a very early sequence where you're racing Human Torch, and I was winning because I know how to play a Spider-Man game. And the whole time, Peter is like, oh my gosh, you're the slowest Human Torch I've ever seen. And then like 5 seconds would pass, he'd be like, eat my short. Like, it's just the weirdest throwing insults.
Turn into Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
You'll have a cow, man.
That's funny.
Anyways, the thing Alex was actually leading into me about is just in terms of video game collectibles. I did get this bad boy or girl.
For our audio listeners, Charles is holding up the coveted Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Nintendo Switch OLED along with the dock.
Wow.
He's one of the 1% that managed to. He even turned it on.
It works.
Wow.
It is a working console. We can confirm.
That looks really. I love the teal color on the left Joy-Con.
We'll do like a little Joy-Con showcase.
Oh wow! Now he's showing off his Nerf Legends Switch case. Do you remember those?
I don't.
Oh, they were awful.
Gosh, look at that!
Nice
gold Joy-Con there. Like the little, yeah.
And then this, I don't know the significance of the swirls because I obviously haven't played the game.
Is the back
like more of what Link?
What's the back look like on that one?
We got more swirls. I don't know if you can really see it.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of like, oh yeah, you see it. Yeah, in the light. Seeing the swirls in the back of the Switch. I guess the Switch itself. Nice.
I love when they started with the Animal Crossing Switch. That kind of very subtle reflective back surface.
Yeah.
I really like that.
You guys know I've never ever have bought a like themed console, like like that's themed after a video game. I've only ever had the basic, like because I'm cheap and things need to break for me to replace them every time.
I'm right there with you, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that's a cool Final Fantasy PlayStation 4, but the one I have works fine. Why would I buy this?
Yeah. The only time I've ever done it was the Animal Crossing Switch. It was the only time I've ever purchased one.
Yeah, like it never lines up. And also maybe because I take care of my stuff, like things rarely ever break. So like I've kept things. The only times I ever replace them is if they do like a hardware refresh of like, oh, I got the half-step consoles for the PS4.
Yeah.
One. But like other than that, it never had a reason to splurge on that stuff.
Back on the 360, the 360 had these interchangeable faceplates,
right?
That I would mess with. Yeah, I had the Gears of War one.
I still see those at like secondhand game stores that are like in the giant plastic bags. There's like 20 of them in there that you can just buy for like $5.
You can probably make like a pretty cool art piece with that.
Oh, like, somebody has, right? Like
a
table
probably.
Or something like that.
A table of Xbox 360 faceplates, yeah, like in enamel or acrylic or whatever.
Yeah, like people put like
they seal it off
cards and stuff. Yeah, there you go. Phil Spencer probably has that in his house.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. That's what he eats his dinner on every night.
Yeah. Well, it does it feel weird that the game didn't come with it, Charles, with the collector's edition?
Yeah.
I mean, the game's not out, so I don't really feel sure.
But it could have been.
But
yeah, it is kind of weird. They've done this before, though.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the Nintendo like special edition consoles, just the Switches, I don't think have come with the game.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last time they did put a game. I know they were doing that with the 3DSs too, that they didn't come with the. Which is weird. Like you can't put a digital copy in there. Like just have it installed, ready to go.
They'll do that with like PlayStations and Xboxes though. Like that'll definitely be a thing of like I'm sure if you get the Gears of War PS5, it comes or not Gears of War, God of War. Wrong war. God of War PS5. I bet that comes with Ragnarok. I do. The only other special edition I have is I have the Wind Waker Wii U. Speaking of Wind Waker. Because this is in a piece I wrote. You can read it on GameInfo.com about the death of the Wii U. But that was like, I really wanted a Wii U, which is a sentence not many people have said. And I found out that they had a special Wind Waker edition that has like the Hylian characters on the gamepad. And That's convinced cool. That was like our big Christmas that year. So that was one where I got the special edition because I didn't already have the console. But it's usually hard to justify the special edition purchase because it's like I like to get on early. So like, why would I buy this new PS5 when I already have a PS5? You know,
that's fair.
I'm so excited. Do you think we'll ever get like a themed PS5? Because it's taken so long for them to become like remotely readily available. Like you would think at this point we would have gotten like a Horizon or like a maybe Spider-Man 2, but it's like I just want to see, just because of how weird the PS5 design is, how people use that to plaster whatever game they want on it. You know what I mean? Like those fins are just two giant blank canvases to put cool pictures on. So.
They do have like the alternate plates like that's a thing with the PS5s. You can get them to match like the controller colors.
Yeah, that's like yeah, it's like solid colors. You know?
Yeah. I feel like that could be a thing. Like, I would prefer to, like, I bought this Tears of the Kingdom Switch, and I don't regret it. It was very cool. Probably would have rathered to buy Tears of the Kingdom Joy-Cons. Like, if I could just get one customizable piece, I don't need the whole shebang, you know? But,
yeah, I guess when you think about it, the PS5 is like the second coming of the 360 faceplates, because, you know, that's like the swappable, customizable thing on the hardware, right? So in about 20 years, we'll go to a game store and see like bags of PS5 custom fins you can get for $3 or something.
Man, maybe I should buy Animal Crossing Joy-Cons, because I ended up selling that to get the OLED. Like, that's how I upgraded, and I've been missing the color pop of those Joy-Cons.
I have one of the few special, I guess, peripherals is that I have a Pro controller, a Switch Pro controller that is Breath of the Wild themed. And I got it from Nintendo of America headquarters when I went up there for the Bayonetta 3 cover story. Because they have a Nintendo store in their headquarters. Like, they have a store for their employees, and the employees that work there sell things to their coworkers, which is a weird concept.
Huh?
And they have an employee yeah, that's Brian. Brian's been there a bunch of times and has bought stuff. That was my first time going, but you can only go with a Nintendo rep, like if you're a visitor.
Wow.
But yeah, you just go in there and just buy whatever you want. And I bought a couple t-shirts and I bought that controller.
Was it the Wii U Pro controller or
No,
Switch?
this is the Switch, because this was in September when I went for the Bayonetta story.
no, they made one of those. That's so cool.
They made a Breath of the Wild controller?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I'm good with it.
Yeah, and I bought it because I actually wanted another, like an extra controller, so it was still like a practical reason.
Yeah.
Because I have a regular Pro controller that works fine, but I was like, I've been wanting to have two for like, because, you know, when you play with friends, you're like, oh, you have to use the Joy-Cons and I get the cool controller.
Absolutely.
So now we can both use regular controllers.
Wait. When you're playing with your friends, you give them the Joy-Cons?
If I'm playing with friends in person, usually they have their Switch too. And so, like, they can play whatever they want to play. Like, and if it's Smash Brothers, then I use the GameCube controllers, of which I have like 6. You know, like I plug in the adapter and then I'm all set. You can use whatever you want, but generally, my friends also have their Switches. So
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm very much like, you guys, you can use this new set of Joy-Cons. These ones might drift. I don't really know, but I will use so that way you can get mad at me when I beat you.
That's the old, like, back in the 90s. Like, you can use the off-brand Mad Catz controller that I have, and I use the real first-party PlayStation controller. I don't know what that.
Don't worry, it's just as good.
Yeah, I don't know what the different channels on the controller means. You can mess with that if you want.
There's like a turbo button. I've never played a game that uses this.
Exactly. It has too many grips on it.
Yeah.
It's weird. They
never drop it.
Pretty much.
That's awesome. Well, let's get into the video games that we've been playing this week. Do you guys want to start off with Redfall? I feel like that's the game of the week, and I've been playing a lot of it.
I was gonna steal Giant Bomb's bit and go game of the week, but pretty sure that's copyrighted. Don't sue me.
For sure.
Jan Ochoa, don't sue me, please.
I feel like I'm trying to think. So I'm roughly 10 hours into Redfall.
You're reviewing the game for us.
I am reviewing the game for us.
Point that out.
I have not finished it as of this recording. Probably by the time you're listening to this, you can go and read my review. And if not, very soon. Because we were given the game 2 business days before the game launched.
Classic Bethesda.
Which is, not conducive to getting a review out the door on time. And I took a stand, not that anybody was telling me that I had to, but I was like, I'm going to play it a little bit over the weekend, but like, I'm going to enjoy my weekend and not crunch on this. Like, I know some outlets did that and, that's their prerogative. I just wasn't going to do that.
Yeah, which I agree. I've done that too. So it's like, you're basically asking me to work on the weekend because you sent code Friday afternoon.
Yeah. But
with the Monday embargo.
yeah. And you know, it is what it is. Like that typically happens when there's a game that is launching that PR isn't super confident in. And there is definitely a reason for that, I think, after playing the game myself. So Redfall is a co-op open world shooter, up to 4-player co-op. You can play it single player, which I would recommend. I think this game is very weird. It feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be. And at its worst, it's very buggy. A lot of head scratching designs and weird exclusions, especially for a studio that is known for having like multiple approaches to their levels. And like, they've even used that in the marketing of the game. And it's like what Arkane is known for. Like, you know, do you want to play stealth? Do you want to play guns blazing? There's really not stealth in this game. There technically is, but I mean, there isn't even a button prompt for like doing a stealth takedown. Like,
you can quietly melee and elbow people to death,
and they'll like fall to the ground. Maybe sometimes there's been times where I walked up behind an enemy and I meleeed them, and they were kind of like on a little windowsill in front of me, and I was literally like butted up against them, and I melee, and it just won't register. It's not damaging them because of like the geometry or whatever. So then I'll jump up on the windowsill, and then they instantly, know that I'm there because I had to jump up there, and then all hell breaks loose. And then there's another system that if you aren't stealthy in this game, there is something called a rook storm that will come, and there's a lot of systems that don't really work well together. Rook storm, yeah. If you get, it's not, kind of think of it like a Rockstar Wanted system or something. And if you max out the bar, then a very hard enemy comes and you have to fight him, and you can't fast travel in a rook storm either to leave. If you do beat him, you get some loot. But I did beat a rook storm once, and the special loot I was supposed to get disappeared on the ground. So that's great. Anyways,
how long of a timer is that? Is that like a constant threat that you're worried about, or is that only
at the point I'm 10 hours and I'm like 50, I've completed the first act of the game. It's not introduced until probably like 4 hours into the game. And then I'd say like once every 45 minutes, I'll summon one, depending on like the way I play. It's like if a guard sees you and alerts other guards, that's a penalty. If you kill a special vampire type, that's a penalty, right? And it was like, it's kind of unavoidable, but where I was going with that is like, the way that the world is designed, you want to explore it, and you want to try to, like, if you're me, you want to try to stealth and find the path of least resistance, and feel clever about yourself, and like take enemies out quietly.
Yeah, and then you play like an Arkane game.
Yeah, I want to play an Arkane game.
Yeah, which I don't know if we pointed out that Arkane, this is their newest game.
Yeah, this is their newest game. Creators of Dishonored and Prey and Deathloop. And so like at its worst, it's like just a buggy mess that like a lot of its systems really don't make sense. And I'll get into that in a bit. And at its best, unfortunately, it's just like very cookie cutter, I think, in its implementation. I think that the world could have been really cool if some of those systems weren't actively working against the way you like, weren't actively going against variety, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like there's a very specific way you have to play this game, and that is honestly just like shooting guns, and like it's an FPS, so of course like that's going to be a way, but it definitely feels like the only way if you want to have fun.
And even then, like, one of the things I've been bumping up against is like, because you're fighting vampires as well as regular people, and they each require like their own weapons. Like vampires have specialized weapons that work better against them, like UV lights,
so
and like
you can only kill a vampire with a stake, and so that can be You can kill them like execution style if there's like a stake equipped to your gun, or there's a stake launcher like Marcus was saying, or a UV light. But like regular bullets won't kill them. And then humans, yeah, you can just kill them with anything.
Yeah, and the problem with that is that the game, for whatever reason, even in single player, like there's no such thing as pausing the game. It does the sort of like Dark Souls thing of like, oh, you can go into the menu, but things are still happening around you. So if someone sees you, they can shoot you in the face while you're trying to switch guns. And because you can hold up to 3 guns. I don't know if you can hold up to more later, Alex. You might
3.
know, but
yeah, just 3.
Okay, because it's like I feel like I need to switch my weapons all the time. It's like, okay, I've got 3 regular guns because I haven't run into a vampire in a little while. But it's like, oh, see a vampire. Okay, I need to switch to my stake gun to deal with this. But it's like going in the menu to
there really should have just been a weapon wheel.
Yeah, it feels like this game needs a weapon wheel for how often you need to change your strategy.
Because you run out of ammo fairly quickly, and depending on the weapon you're using, like it can be kind of hard to find ammo.
And the same, the opposite too, where it's like, oh, I've got like 2 vampire-centric weapons, but I'm fighting a bunch of humans. I need my assault rifle right now. And you're like, I can't just do that without getting shot in the face or having to run somewhere.
Yeah, I can't swap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it just makes fights frustrating in a way that's not fun. And I've gotten killed because of that. I'm like, oh, I just don't have the right gun equipped and I can't change fast enough. And especially for like, why can't I just pause? I'm playing by myself. You know?
Yeah. And like when you get to that moment where like, oh, I have like 0 ammo in both of my weapons, and I've got like this weird third weapon that is like a sniper or like a ray gun that only works on vampires. Like, and like you said, yeah, I can't pause the game. Like what the heck?
3 is also like, I haven't played the game, but 3 feels like a weird number. Like you would think it would be, I would assume it's like 2 or 4. Yeah. Like whatever I don't know what the specific like ideal loadout there is.
It changes kind of. It feels like you always need to at least have 1 vampire weapon on you just in case, but then you're sort of sacrificing, like you're like, okay, I should probably have a handgun, like a close range, and then sometimes it's like, oh, I want a shotgun to blast dudes that just, because you get rushed. At least I have been pretty easily, because it can be kind of hard to spot enemies when you're just sort of roaming around. Like I've been surprised a bunch of times where I turn a corner, it's like, oh, there's like 3 people here, and I want to just blast them immediately. But then you're like, oh, I don't have my shotgun because I just don't have it equipped right now. And you're like, oh, and now I got this UV gun that does nothing to people.
Yeah, and on the topic of enemies, outside of 1 or 2 types of vampire. Oh, that's not fair. I will say there are like different types of vampires in this game, and there are also special vampires that have special abilities. And some of those special vampires, like the Siphon and the Shroud, I think specifically the Shroud, which is like a vampire that like disappears and reappears. Mm-hmm. It's sometimes hard to figure out what kind of vampire you're going up against in the world. Or if you're in like a dimly lit place, like, and you want to play stealth. Sometimes I felt like I was getting caught off guard because I couldn't tell from their silhouette. Maybe they were bent over, or sometimes the vampires will just start teleporting around at random. And it really makes it really hard to play stealthily. And like vampires, I haven't really figured out a way to take them down stealthily besides the stake launcher, which is like will instant kill a lot of them.
Yeah,
that thing is also not silenced, and there's been plenty of times where I kill a dude and I kill a vampire with the stake launcher and everyone's alerted. And there are some weapons that later on you'll get that are like silenced, but it just never feels like a viable play style against the vampires. And the only reason it's viable against the humans is because the humans are so weak. They are literally just cannon fodder. Like, especially like there are times in the early game where, and even further on, where like you will just like, it feels like 1 bullet kills a human. And it's like, why are they even here? Like there's no challenge at all. And to the point where like I was switching my challenge mode around, or the difficulty, and I was like trying to figure out like why does this not feel good?
I feel like they're deadlier in number because I feel like all of my deaths are when I just get overwhelmed, which makes the lack of stealth frustrating for me, where it's like I go into an area and it's like, oh, there's like 10 people here and like half of them are vampires floating around. You're like, I don't want to fight anyone here because it turns sideways real quick when they're all shooting at you, because I feel like you get torn apart really easily early on. And healing takes a while because it's not instantaneous. Like you got to find a spot to kind of hold down a button to heal. So it's like, if I could just thin the herd by like stealthing and just taking out as many as I can, I want to do that. But again, like you said, unless you can get up close to them and do your little fatal elbow attack, oftentimes I've been shooting them in the head with like a handgun and then running away before anyone can like, because everyone's like, what was that? Who's over there? And you're like, this doesn't feel. Because it's like it was a gunshot, and either they all hear it or not enough of them hear it when you think they probably should. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can I ask just what the story of this game is? I didn't realize you were fighting not zombies, non-vampires at any point. What are the humans doing that?
Vampires have taken over a harbor town called Redfall and have trapped it with some magic. And the vampires, though, were once humans, and they are like science-based vampires. Like through a series of science experiments, they became vampires.
It's like Resident Evil vampires.
Yeah, and they are the humans. There are the Bellwether Corporation, which is like mercenaries that are trying to take down the vampires, but they also they're just like an elite militia that want to take over and will kill anybody that's not them. And then there's like cultists who are humans who want the vampires to convert them to vampirism.
Yeah, like they just worship the vampires.
Yeah, and later on in the game, in the second map, there's 2 maps in this game that you cannot go back and forth from. It's just like you're on one map, then you're on the other for story reasons. There are a couple like more factions that play, and they kind of play against each other, which is cool, I guess. But yeah. So you're trying to bite back. And it's fine. Like, I think this is probably the least interesting Arkane lore that I've come across since like the Dishonored series started coming out. I think like Dishonored was really cool. I've heard Prey has really cool lore. Deathloop with like the time machine loop stuff was really cool. This one, I think a lot of my complaints of this game come down to the fact that I don't think this should have been an open world game. I think they really, really stretched themselves thin by having to fill 2 open world maps with like a bunch of content to make it an open world game, right? And so a lot of it feels like, don't get me wrong, there's some highlights, but like the majority of it feels really watered down and kind of, like I said, cookie cutter. And I imagine that is like a production issue where like we don't have the time or the staff to really make this an interesting open world and also an interesting Arkane game. And I feel like you just get this weird mixture that kind of oscillates between these 2 ideas of like what it wants to be. And I just it's a big disappointment. I think I am not convinced that Arkane, I'm sure they're capable of making a really cool open world game, but I'm convinced like their strong suit is like the canyon. When I was talking to Harvey Smith before this game came out, he was telling me about how like most Arkane games are designed as like, they call it like the canyon approach, where like, yeah, there's like a bunch of paths and stuff that you can take, but like they're eventually funneling you down into this really cool point of interest, and they know the angles that you're going to view their world from, and they know like, and from there they can like build out an interesting thing. But when it's just an open world and you can be looking anywhere, coming from any direction, it just doesn't hold the same weight. And
also they make traversing the world kind of an annoyance in a way that you don't see in a lot of modern open world. Where like I hate that because you're unlocking these safe houses along the way, and they basically serve as like spawn points and like refill points. But then every time you die, you go back to that safe house, which is annoying, where it's like, oh, I was way across the map for this mission, and then I died, and I got to go all the way back there. And it's like, can I just start where I died? That would actually be a lot better than having to warp back to the last. It's like, I don't understand why. At least give me the choice to say, like, do you want to start here, or do you want to go back to the safe house to refill or whatever you got to do? You know what I mean?
Look, some of the characters have traversal abilities, but they're only really effective and interesting once you're at the POI. But getting to those POIs, it's like such a slog. Like, you just have to sprint there. There's no transportation or.
And then oftentimes you're getting jumped along the way because you're like, a lot of times they're like, oh, I'm just going to run straight there. But that means I'm not being careful about like sneaking past people. So then, especially when there's times where I'm low on ammo or health and I'm like, I need to preserve what I have for the thing I'm trying to do. So I'm going to try to get there as quickly as possible. And then I get jumped by like 3 vampires along the way who pursue you relentlessly.
There's
like, well,
that.
I gotta deal with these guys and use up the things I want to save for the fight because I can't warp there.
Yeah, there's that side of things where it's like feast or famine with this game. Like, there's either so many enemies that it's like overwhelming. And sometimes, like, I think this game is at its best when there are more enemies to take down because there's actual risk and I actually have to think about what I'm doing. But I feel like a lot of the time it's the opposite, where like I will run for like, depending on where I'm at, like I will go like 5 minutes without seeing a single enemy. And I'm like, where is everybody? Like, it's just like very inconsistent. And yeah, it's a bummer because I think if you were to take some of the like very interesting POIs from this game and just like made a linear Arkane game, you'd have like some really cool stuff to work with.
Some of it's just quality of life stuff too, of like,
yeah,
like I'm with you. Like, I think Arkane can make a good open world. You know, it's just some of the design decisions. Like, oh, this is such a solvable problem because it has been solved in other open world games. Like, this is just like a matter of convenience of, hey, I selected a story mission. Why doesn't it automatically
place a waypoint
on the map? Yeah, like, why do I have to manually place a waypoint and then I have to keep changing it because I'll forget sometimes and keep going back to the same waypoints? I'm like, oh, right, it doesn't auto update. I have to keep placing it for the thing that I want to do next.
In multiplayer, if you're out questing with friends, in order to accept a side mission from a billboard, right, you can get in these safe houses and there's like a wall and it has like side missions. I can't just go and even as the host, I can't just go and pick up a mission for us to do together. Everybody has to run or fast travel to the safe house, go inside, and then I have to accept the mission when we're all inside. And then we all leave the safe house. It's like, I can't just like assign a mission for us to play.
Yeah, it's like it's such a process, you know?
Yeah.
And that's assuming that nothing falls apart, like game wise, of like, oh, someone got kicked out of the game randomly. Now we got to re-invite that person back in and start over again.
There's also a very weird balancing issue where, like, this is supposed to be like a multiplayer game, right? And I invited you guys to my game to test it out. And because you have, when you go back to this, or if you die, or even if you succeed in a mission, your health items, which are very necessary because it only takes like a few hits for you to die in this game.
Oh yeah, you're super fragile.
And your healing items are not on a recharge or a cooldown. You have to pay for charges of your healing items, and you have to like pay money that you get in the game to buy healing items, to buy ammo. None of that is free. And so Marcus, Miller, and Blake joined my game. They were early in the game. I was like midway through, right? But we were also on the same map, and like I was just wanting to do side missions, and it's supposed to scale them to my game level. They didn't. But one problem we ran into was after we finished the mission, they didn't have money to buy ammo or buy medical items. Like, so they just couldn't use, a lot of times, like, they just couldn't use a certain type of gun. Like, they couldn't heal. We were like dying super quick because nobody could afford first aid kits. Were struggling. And the person who has money and who has ammo, I can't share any of that with them.
Weird.
And I've never, like, thinking about it, like other games that are super like loot focused and like, you know, opening drawers and grabbing stuff. It's like, that's kind of just how you replenish, right? Like, go look around, grab stuff. But like, I mean, some places have stores, but it feels like the cost for that stuff feels a little too steep. Of like, it's like over $1,000 to be like, I just want to refill my guns. And you're like, if it's already out there for me, I feel like it's enough of a challenge just looking around trying to find stuff on your own. Like, it's like, maybe that should just be where the challenge is. Cause like, you're going to run out of stuff in the field no matter what, because, you know, there's so many enemies and the vampires take a lot to take down a lot of the time. So like, having to pay this exorbitant fee just to kind of do it all at once feels a bit much, you know? It's like, I'm going to use all this up anyway, and I'm going to find it just like, maybe just slash the price in half. Cause you feel bottlenecked sometimes. Like, well, I want to use this gun, but unless I find an ammo out in the field, I can't afford it. So I kind of have to go out there and try to get some money by killing stuff or whatever. It's one of those things that just feels off. You know what I mean? Like the economy and whatever.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
asked, do you, just from what I'm hearing, a lot of this stuff is like quality of life stuff you're saying, Marcus. Do you think this game is like beyond saving? Like, I feel like there's kind of a trend lately of, you know, developers take like 6 months to a year and a half, and then come back with like a big update and like things are way, way better. Like, do you think that kind of stuff can make it palatable, or is it more of like a broad design based?
I think some of the little individual things we called out could be like the waypoint issue. That feels like something that could be patched in. Like, now when you accept quests, it just automatically, you know, puts it on your compass. Like, we heard you. That is annoying. We'll change that. Like, there's things like that I feel like that could be tweaked, but I mean, at a broader design level, I mean, Alex, you might have a better idea. So you play more, but
I think there are some things like the quest system and being able to pause the game are probably major overhauls.
What a big ask, honestly, though. Just
like that stuff is so like there were times when I would be playing the game and I would be fighting a big enemy, and like I would throw down like an AoE or like something that would damage them over time, something like that. And I would die, and because the game doesn't pause, it continues going. I would like die or like quickly respawn or whatever, and then I would get like mission complete, or I'd like complete some sort of quest step because that person died while I was dead, but they're across the entire map from me. And so now I have to, you know, run and pick up something that they dropped to finish the mission, or in the case of the Rook, right? That happened with the Rook Storm, and the Rooks give you like really cool weapons, and like there's incentive to kill them, even though it's really hard. I killed a Rook as I died, and it spawned me like a good 5 to 6 minute walk away from the Rook. And I walk back. That's an exaggeration. It was like 3 minutes. Okay. It starts to feel very long in the tooth when you have to do this multiple times. And I get back there and the loot has despawned that the Rook dropped. And it's like, well, I just wasted all this ammo on this thing as well. And I don't even get like, it's just, there's so many things that are just wrong with this game.
Can you patch in a weapon wheel? Is that possible?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I would love that. Like, even like the Resident Evil 4 remake style, like quick select, where you can have like 8 things, like anything like that. Again, because so many of the weapons in this game are so specific and are like unitaskers, basically, with the vampire stuff. You're like, I don't know if I should have this on hand all the time. There's times where it's like, I got this cool flare gun, but I don't want to take away the 3 guns that feel more important. So I might not ever use this cool thing, especially because of how much work it is to go into the menu and select it, and also make sure you're not getting shot in the face while you're doing it. And if I could just seamlessly swap between like 5 guns, I don't think that'll affect the challenge at all. Like I said, between how fragile you are and how many enemies they can throw at you in some spots, it's going to be tough regardless. So if you can let me swap between like, oh, I'm going to stake this guy and then immediately shotgun this other guy and then going to put my UV lamp on this guy and come up with like cool combinations of using stuff, like that'd be awesome. So I don't know if that's possible, but yeah,
I know they're planning to release 2 more characters. Maybe they'll kind of save those for like a bigger patch, bigger update.
One of the characters like special powers is that he can hold multiple weapons.
It's got an extra arm.
Speaking of like character powers, I think that's one of the strong suits of the game. I think, you know, I like the protagonists. They're cool. Like I'm playing as Devender, who is like a cryptozoologist who hunts for cryptids and, you know, chases the supernatural, and he's a really fun character. And his ability, he's got like this arc lightning antenna that he can throw down, and it'll like zap people, and it'll catch things on fire too, or like for a vampire, if you get them weak, you don't have to stake them if you've got one of those arc things on the ground, because it'll like burn them up, right? He's got a really cool, and why I picked him, he's got a translocator that he throws, and it's like a teleport. And I thought when I was starting the game, that'd be like a really cool thing to interact with. And it is. And you could upgrade both of those things. And then he's also got an ult where like he puts down like this UV ray that puts a black light and UV light in like a radius around it. And it petrifies vampires into stone if they like come into contact with it. So it's like when you've got a swarm of vampires coming at you, you activate that thing, and all of a sudden, like mid animation, they all just turn to stone, and you just punch them or shoot them and they crumble. And like that stuff's really cool. I think Layla is another character that I played in the preview where she has this.
Yeah, I'm playing as her.
Okay, yeah. What are her ability? I know you have the elevator, like the spectral elevator lift.
Yeah, which I never use because I've yet to find a good spot for it, honestly, even though I liked it in the trailers. But as I'm playing, I'm like, when should I use this when you're playing by yourself? Because
I just use it like traverse. Get the high ground, I guess, you know?
Yeah, I guess maybe because I've been around spots that have like ladders and stairs, like I'll just run up there. It's quicker than using up my power juice for it.
Yeah.
But she has that umbrella that acts as a shield, can absorb bullets, and then you can throw it at people. I recently unlocked her ultimate, I guess, which she like summons her like ex-boyfriend who's like dead.
Yeah, vampire ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, he goes around and like beats the crap out of people. He's probably the best thing because, again, for how quickly you can get swarmed, having someone there, and he can also kill vampires instantly. Like he doesn't need to stake them. So I'd like summon him for that, but you know, you gotta wait a bit to use him.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's fun. Maybe not as fun as I hope, but maybe I gotta like, there's like a whole skill tree with all the powers. So maybe I just gotta unlock more like enhancements and stuff and make it better.
Yeah. Like I unlocked an enhancement that lets my UV light, if we stand by it, it heals us and boosts our damage. Like stuff like that, right? And I think in a different version of this game, that would be really rewarding, right? Because Arkane games are really well known for like the powers and stuff and the creative ways that you get to use them, right? And I just feel like the world kind of pushes against your sorry, Wilson's crying because he wants food. I feel like this world kind of pushes against your creativity at times, whether due to bugs and technical issues or just because like it's unbalanced or like you don't have stealth mechanics to like play the way you want to play. Yeah, just it's a bummer because there's a lot of, I think there's like the world itself is cool, right? I think like a lot of the vistas are really neat, like the way that they have like the water frozen or like in stasis around Redfall. Wilson, I'm podcasting. You've got to go, buddy.
Yeah, we got a cat here, folks.
Yeah, hi, Wilson. If you stay here, you can sit with me. But yeah, it's a bummer that it's not more put together. Especially because like they are Arkane is probably my favorite game studio right now. And I loved Deathloop, even though Deathloop was a little more mainstream for them, right? And it's in the way it kind of went about things. It still, at the heart, it still felt like it had that weird DNA that their games have. And I think at its best, this game is kind of just like standard shooter.
Yeah, it's kind of, but then even with some weird design choices that a lot of standard shooters don't do, like weird mistakes. Like, again, playing co-op, only the host can retain story progress, which to me kind of kills any desire to want to play co-op for any reasonable amount of time. If I'm like, everything I'm doing, if I'm not the host, it just doesn't matter, basically. I got to redo this again later in my own. It's like, why?
Despite the fact that it's mission based, and
so many other co-op games don't do that.
Yeah, you're selecting your missions mission based, which you'd think like, okay, well, when I go back to my game, I'll just have that mission done. Yeah,
you're like, again, that's like the best thing about two birds with one stone. Like, oh, I can play with my friend and progress in this game. It's like, nope, you're gonna have that conversation with your buddy about like, well, who gets to keep all that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't scored it yet. I think at best this is in like the 6s for me, probably low 6s at best. That could change,
But I'll keep poking around with it on my own just because it's out of a love of Arkane, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer I'll play single player. At least at the time of this recording, I just streamed it for a couple hours not long ago on our Twitch channel. But yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, it is. I think as the story also, like it's just like pretty one note. And half the time I don't even know what's happening because the way that the subtitles work, I couldn't make the subtitles so that it only has main characters talking in the subtitles. And so and I can't customize the size of the subtitles or anything like that. And so there are plenty of times where like I'd be hearing a main mission dialogue and like all the random NPC barks would be like scrolling and like I'd miss it's a mess.
I gotta say, this whole time I was like, this game doesn't sound very good. I probably won't play it, but maybe it'll be good one day. That subtitles thing, I can't. I rely so heavily on subtitles, like the concept of that being interrupted.
I'm sure they can patch that.
Like, sure, yes, but just like that's a thing where it's like, oh, I gotta wait until that's fixed because it's like my ears don't work.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing I'm having this conversation right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I listen to songs, I literally don't know what the words are saying most of the time. I just hear the melody and
yeah.
I rely on subtitles because otherwise it's just noise. But yeah, it's a huge bummer. My biggest disappointment of the year. And it sucks like talking about it like this because I know I've met a lot of the people, or not a lot, but I've met several of the people that are like, that work at Arkane, and they're all lovely people. Like I've had nothing but good interactions with them. I love their games typically. And it sucks knowing that like, my job as somebody who is, critiquing this game, right? I'm going to tell you how it is. It just sucks knowing that they're on the other end and I know that they're going to hear that. And that's the name of the game, right? Like that's how it goes. And it's not like I think I could do better, right? Making games is hard, but it just, this one's a miss.
Yeah, it's like I respect that they did something different. I always love when studios try something new and don't just do the thing that they are known for. It just didn't work out this time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think I would like to see them go back to like more single player stuff after this experience.
What if you added vampires to Dishonored 3?
I mean, give us what we want. Just give us Dishonored 3.
Yeah,
I think they're also like, I think they're very tired of Dishonored 3. But now that they've spent like, several years on this game, maybe they'd be willing to go back to it. But yeah, just it's rough. It's rough, man. I was so excited. This is a game review. I was like screaming like, "Let me review it! I love their games," and it's just been bad.
We've all had those releases that just really like. Is this up there as like an all-time disappointment? Because when I think of like all-time disappointments, like games like Devil May Cry 2 come to mind. Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 is another one that really hurt me because of how much I love that first game. Is this like
this is up there for me. Yeah, I was talking about this game like it was my most anticipated game alongside Tears of the Kingdom. Like I was very much expecting high stuff, and the preview that I played was probably one of the best parts of the game in the actual full game. My preview was, I remember
it previewing pretty well across the board.
Yeah, my preview was really positive, and that was like probably the best mission in the game. In terms of like how it works.
Good choice on them.
Yeah, good choice on a preview, man. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I know we spent a lot of time on Redfall. But Charles, you finished Jedi Survivor. We talked a lot about it last week, but tell me what you thought.
Yeah, you survived.
Well, you don't know that. I don't know if you.
Oh, I guess we don't know how the story ends. Yeah.
I'm not spoiling it. I'm actively not spoiling it by saying you don't know who survives or not. But I will say that this was a game where every 5 hours I was like, that's why it's called Jedi Survivor. Oh, that's why it's called Jedi Survivor.
Did the characters keep saying the word survivor and then looking at the camera and winking?
They did actually say the word survivor way more often than I expected it to the point where I was like, I wonder if they knew what it would be called as they were writing these missions. No, but yeah, I finished it. I absolutely love this game. I really liked Fallen Order, and this was definitely one of my like more anticipated games. It really just knocked my socks off by like how much in the way I really, really loved Fallen Order. The fact that I was like, if this is just more Fallen Order, it'll be fine. And I just feel like it went above and beyond what I was expecting so much that I'm just like so happy with this. This would probably, I'm also a huge like Star Wars video games fan. Like I really love The Force Unleashed on the Wii. That's like one of my favorite games. And Jedi Fallen Order, I was like, oh, this is great. This is like exactly what I want. Jedi Survivors, even more of that. This would definitely be my game of the year if Tears of the Kingdom wasn't coming out in 2 weeks, which puts all that, of course, into serious question. But the thing I especially, I'm sure you guys talked about it. I haven't listened to that episode, talked about it at length, but the last 5 hours of the game, I won't give any details about it for spoiler reasons, but like really caught me off guard by how much I was sucked back into the story of it. Like the story was probably not poor, but like the weakest part of my experience of like start was very good. And then I was kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of going around and, looking for this thing.
Kind of meanders.
Story is. Yeah, it is kind of a meandering plot, but I liked the combat so much that I didn't really mind. And then the like last several chunks of it were so good. There's like 3 fights that are like I thought were the final boss. Where I was like, the game's gotta end after this. Oh, the game's gotta end after this. And then the final one, I was like, well, the game is definitely ending after this. But yeah, I just was so excited by that. It has a new game plus. A lot of the times the game will come out and then like 3 months later they'll be like, we've added in a new game plus.
Yeah.
This one launched with it. And I am debating on jumping right back in and playing more because I just really like how those lightsabers feel.
I am, I think, 8 hours in still. I haven't gotten to play since last week because I'm on Redfall. But I cannot wait to go back to Jedi Survivor because I was having so much fun with it last week. And it was I was up there. It was right there with you. Like that's my favorite game of the year so far that I've played. Yeah. It's not perfect by any means. Like it's got some technical issues, but like I think that game is awesome. And worth looking past its flaws to enjoy and play. And that's somebody who's like, I'm kind of lapsed on Star Wars a bit. Like but this is like kind of bringing me back. And and I realized like, oh yeah, this is why I like Star Wars, like the melodrama and all of the fascinating characters that you come across. This game just nails it. And like the traversal in Jedi Survivor is so freaking good, dude. I love all the platforming puzzles I've come across so far.
I just like that they made him climb faster. Like that little thing of like, oh, it doesn't feel tedious. They like he's just like a little squirrel boy, and he scurries up those grates real fast, and I'm down for it.
Yeah,
that was like that kind of ties in because in the first game you eventually unlock like climbing gear, which lets you climb like these rock walls, and then also makes you climb way faster. And it's very much one of those things where it's like, man, I feel like you were holding me hostage this whole like there's just a button to press to go faster this whole time. You didn't let me do it.
Yeah, he absorbed the climbing gear in his body. Now he can climb faster.
This whole game very much feels like that was also my thing at the end of Fallen Order. Of I was like, wow, I feel like I'm like a Jedi now. Like I've unlocked all these abilities. I love switching between like these lightsaber types and such. But then the game was over. And then the new game plus for Fallen Order, you just keep your cosmetics, but you don't keep any of your abilities. There's no like skill tree continuation. So it's really just like I don't know. That's not really what I want from a new game plus. This one has like you keep all your abilities, and then there's like new perks you can equip to be like you deal more damage and take more damage, or there's a party lightsaber mode you unlock, which I think is just like a rainbow.
Yeah,
like,
I've heard about that.
Color.
What?
And just like, yeah, this is just such the exact kind of evolution I wanted. So I just wanted to bring up that I'm just very happy.
Yeah, I still have a ways to go. I haven't played much longer than the stream I did Friday, which you can watch in our archives, but like hearing you guys' excitement and other people's, like, it feels like they did what I hoped they would do, where this is like the ideal sequel, where the first game reminds me a lot of it's like the first Assassin's Creed, where that game came out and it was good, but it had problems, and you're like, the sequel is going to be amazing if they can address these things. And then it sounds like this is the Assassin's Creed 2 of the Star Wars Jedi series, I guess is what we're going to call it now.
Yeah.
All those things that were annoying, we fixed those, and we added some cool stuff and just blew it up in a cool way. And even the few hours I played, I'm like, oh, I'm already more into this than I think I was in the early hours of Fallen Order, which is a game that I really liked, but it had its drawbacks. I can finally dive back into it because I spent the weekend kind of clearing my plate of other stuff, and I didn't want to get like dragged in. So I was like, okay, now that I'm allowed to play this like in earnest now, basically like outside of work. So
yeah, that's fair.
I'm psyched.
I will say for reference, I'm rounding down a little bit because often I will like leave the game pause and then go do something. But my play time, it was about 30 hours. I did a bunch of side stuff. It's also just like really good exploration of like, just as you unlock the new abilities, going back to earlier places and being like, oh, that's what all those floating orange blobs are for.
Oh yeah. I'm taking my time trying to find stuff. Can I ask Charles, now that you finished the game, what was your lightsaber color?
This is a great question. This is a vital. Did you guys answer this question when I messaged it to Alex?
No, I forgot to. We didn't get to all the questions last week.
I always pictured him as a yellow lightsaber guy. But for some reason, I cannot explain, I went green like this whole game. I found out you can change like the colors of his clothes, and I ended up doing like green's my favorite color. I ended up doing like green shirt, green pants, green BD1, green lightsaber, and then it worked so well that I was like, I can't not do this. But I think I usually like to do yellow, but something about this one, I was green the whole time.
I'm always a yellow and orange guy if it's an option. Like even back in like the Jedi Knight series, you could use different non-standard colors, and I was always orange or yellow. And I think I started this yellow, and now I'm orange.
Okay, I'm orange too. I was orange in the first game because I was like, oh, it matches his hair.
Yeah, fair, yeah.
And also I was like, oh, I don't think anyone that I know of in the fiction has an orange lightsaber, so maybe that can be his specific thing, So
it's also I get very caught up for some reason of like I want him to look correct. Like I want him to be customized, but I don't want him to look wrong. Like when I
so you give him a mullet.
Game, yeah, so I gave him a mullet immediately. No, and his lightsaber is his master's lightsaber, which is
that's true.
blue originally. And so I always have the thing in my head of like, I had to stop myself from changing it back to blue because like I don't want it to be blue, supposed to be, but you can change it.
Yeah, you want the crap on the memory of your master. I get it.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I remember also looking up in the past, like what the different colors mean in the Star Wars universe. And I'm pulling it up right now because I don't exactly remember, but if you have a yellow lightsaber in the current canon, according to ultrasabers.com/holocron, in current canon, the yellow lightsabers are associated with the Jedi Temple Guard, who were charged with the sacred task of protecting the Temple of the Jedi Order on Coruscant. The Jedi Temple Guard, who wore masks to remain anonymous, carried yellow lightsaber pikes, a type of saber with a long hilt, and a blade emitting from each end.
It also means you can change your last name to Skywalker.
True. Yes.
Just at will. It's a force power.
Oh, and this is the Jedi Sentinel. That's what I remember. If you reach back to the shadowy and non-canonical realm of Star Wars Legends, you encounter another type of Jedi who utilized the yellow lightsaber, the Jedi Sentinel. The Sentinel represented one of three schools of Jedi, the others being the battle-ready Guardians and diplomatic-minded Consulars. Sentinels occupied the position between those two types of Jedi, taking inspiration from both and giving themselves latitude to fight, negotiate, or keep watch as the occasion demanded. Sentinels were realists, not idealists. They were fond of learning. They were the
realist?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then I think the orange ones are supposed to be like gray Jedi. Yeah. So like balance between light and dark.
Do you guys also look at the orange saber and kind of think it's like a cosmic, like creamsicle, like an orange creamsicle?
Exactly.
That's how I look at it.
Now.
Yeah, that's what screw all that other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Marcus, take us home. What else you been playing this week besides Jedi Survivor?
Well, actually, I haven't played that much this week, but I've been playing a game called The Last Case of Benedict Fox. This cool like indie game that dropped. Yeah, Metroidvania, some Souls in there, like Souls-like DNA, which I wasn't expecting, as well as some detective stuff, like almost like adventure game style. It's an interesting amalgamation of different sort of like styles. This game, I remember it debuted at like an Xbox, might have been like an ID at Xbox showcase or a regular Xbox showcase like a year ago. But I remember seeing it and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. Especially like the art direction looked cool as kind of like a stylized look about it. It came out last week. It's on Game Pass. I think it's on Steam and I think it's everywhere, I want to say. But the idea is that you're playing as this detective, Benedict Fox, who is possessed. Maybe possessed is not the word, but he's got this weird like entity inside of him that gives him superpowers. It's like this dark voice in his head. It's pretty much like The Darkness, now that I think about it.
He's got the symbiote in him.
It's and that too, I was gonna say it's like a Venom style relationship where it's talking to him in his mind and it's giving him like dark thoughts and has like very dark commentary about things, and it's got the Venom voice of like, oh yes, this looks horrible, or she has a dark heart, I want to eat it, stuff like that. So these two are like partners. I still don't know the nature of their relationship, like how it came to be, or sort of like introduced with, it seems like they've been together for like a decent amount of time. Mm-hmm. And you're going to this giant mansion and you're basically investigating the deaths of this man and this woman. They were married. I believe they might be your parents, sort of. It's kind of like vague somewhat, a little bit. But what's cool is that, so the house itself that you start in is like a medium-sized environment. It's got like different levels, and when you're exploring, you already see a bunch of like interactable sort of puzzle things of like, oh, there's a drawer here. It's got this weird combination key that have these different symbols. I need to find something that tells me what symbols I need to like match up, or like, you know, lock doors and need special keys. But then the Metroidvania stuff kicks off where you're exploring the memories of these two people. So like, you know, they're dead, but then you jump into their minds basically, and it's like a limbo dimension where you're reliving their memories as you're exploring their limbo, which is like this sort of like twisted version of the house. And then that's when the map is like super big. You're running around. The entity that's in your head gives you some supernatural powers where, you know, you can attack on your own with like basic melee, and you have like a pistol that the entity charges. But then I unlocked this thing where you can summon tentacles. This is where the darkness symbiote comparisons come in, where you can just shoot tentacles that grab people and throw them around. It can also help you double jump. Though this game has a weird double jump where, because the double jump works where when you jump, the second jump comes when the tendrils just connect to something and pull you higher. So that means you can't double jump unless there's something either above you or just a ledge that you can grab onto. So like if you're like in an open field, basically with nothing around, you can't double jump, which is taking some getting used to when I'm like jumping on a platform and I'm like, oh, I can just double jump. And you're like, oh, actually, no, I can't, because there's nothing nearby to like latch onto. And they kind of highlight different points so you can kind of see what you could attach to. So it's a conditional double jump, I guess, which is something I'm still getting used to. But I think my favorite thing about this game is that it looks really nice. Like the level design and the art, like it looks awesome. The amount of detail that are like in the backgrounds, both in like the mansion as well as like the limbo dimensions, and just it's just fun to look at. I think the puzzle solving so far has been not challenging. It's more like, oh, I found a lock. You got to explore, and you find a note that has a picture of like, oh, this is the combination you need to input, and then you just go back there and do it. So there hasn't been anything, well, outside of like one puzzle with keys where you're kind of just like, it's almost memory of like, okay, I have a picture of these keys and they each have a different number value, and I got to arrange them in a certain way to basically do like a math problem. But other than that, I've collected a bunch of like random items that some of them give you stat boosts. Like, oh, I found like a severed hand that I guess makes my like demonic powers better. And then there's like heart piece equivalents. So like, oh, I find enough of these, I get extra health pips. But other than that, I have a bunch of random stuff that I don't know how they come into play yet, outside of like you get currency every time you find them, which is used to buy some like a very small amount of items from the store. You're upgrading your shadow abilities by going to this lady who's like, you literally tattoo different symbols on your body, and that gives you like new shadow attacks and just improves the existing shadow attacks, which also has maybe my favorite like unintentional comedy of the game, where, because the performances, like the voice performances in this game, I'm gonna say are like mediocre at best, and some are just kind of bad. And Benedict is also like, just his performances are very wooden. And when you get your tattoo, he puts his arm out and, you know, you pick your upgrade, and he's like talking super calmly in his sort of like hard-boiled detective, like, yeah, I'm just gonna get these tattoos. And then the moment you upgrade, she starts doing it, and he screams, he's like, like, he flips out. And then immediately when it's done, he goes back to like, yeah, I'm just really calm. And so like the first time I got it, I had enough currency to get multiple upgrades in a row. So it was just like this funny sequence of him being like, yeah, I'm ready. And then, and then, yeah, okay, I'm ready. Just losing his mind. And I was like, I don't think this is supposed to be funny, but just the delivery of it is fantastic. The Souls comparison comes in where you're finding different fast travel points as you explore. And when you kill enemies, you collect ink, which is basically a currency that you use for the tattoo stuff. But when you die, you lose your ink to the enemy that killed you, and it also makes them stronger. So you have to go back and, you know, kill them to get it back. We've all done this at some point. But it also has an interesting banking system where whenever you go to a fast travel point, you can actually like basically store the ink that you've collected so that it's safe. And you actually can't fast travel if you have ink on you. They kind of And the kind of limit free fast travel will, like, okay, I'm just going to use it. And then like a notification comes up saying, hey, if you fast travel while you have ink, you're going to lose it permanently. Are you sure? So it's like a choice you have to make of like, do I want to run this gauntlet again to get back to this place? Or should I just walk to the nearest fast travel so I can bank the stuff that I have? Which I'm okay with. Like, it hasn't been too hard to work around, you know, and I guess it kind of keeps me from just fast traveling constantly, and exploration hasn't been too insane to where it's like, oh, I haven't hit a stretch of like, oh, I don't want to run this again. You know what I mean? Because the fast travel points are like decently spaced so far. I think my least favorite part of the game so far is probably the combat. I think it's okay at best. You, like I said, it's a lot of melee. You have a parry that you can do, which the timing of it feels questionable at times. And then you have your pistol. Like, you're pretty much just slicing dudes with your knife until you build up your one pistol shot, which is almost like a one-hit kill, you know, when you can unleash it. But a lot of the enemies take a while to die, like sometimes too long, where it's like, I feel like I've been hacking at this dude forever and he's still standing. And then also there's just some cheap enemies in the game that I'm like, I'm not a fan of these guys. I did one big boss fight that just wasn't super great. It felt kind of cheap trying to figure out like, what am I supposed to hit here? And then you go down pretty fast, and yeah, there's another sequence that was also pretty combat heavy where I was like, oh, this feels less fun just because there's some of the enemies are too hard. Also, you don't really have much recovery time, so there's times where like you get knocked down and then you get hit again and you're just done. You know, like I just stood up and then I got hit in the face with a projectile. And it's like I couldn't have done anything because I have to, you know, stand up.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of that stuff's icky. There's also might be a little bit of technical jank where I had an instance where I died and then respawned and I couldn't move, so I had to restart the game. And then upon restarting, all of my recent save progress wasn't carried over.
Oh, that's sick.
So I had to so I kind of had to rerun a portion of the map again, and I was like, it's only happened once, and like it auto saves pretty regularly, and you can also manual save. So I don't know what the deal was with that, and so I'm hoping that's a one-off. But overall, though, there's something about this game. Like I think I like the vibe, the presentation, and like the sort of like exploration stuff combined with the puzzle solving, because a lot of puzzle solving is in the mansion. I'm like, okay, run to limbo stuff, then go back to the mansion and see if you can solve a puzzle now. I'm kind of digging it. Like, I'm gonna keep playing with it, but it's definitely got some hang-ups that hopefully don't get like exasperated as the game goes on. So yeah, seems pretty cool overall so far.
Awesome. Well, we've got a listener question that was left over from last week I want to get to, but first I want to get into some housekeeping. Just a reminder to everybody watching and listening, single issues of Game Informer are now available. If you go to GameStop.com/Game Informer, you can buy them for $5.99 a piece. I'm checking to see if last week we had our Dead Island 2 cover, our Sea of Stars / indie game cover, and Resident Evil 4 cover. And now it looks like they've now added our Diablo 4 cover. So if you want physical versions of any of those, just single issues, you can go and buy them for $5.99 a piece. That does support us, helps to keep the lights on, as does, you know, your annual subscriptions if you're a digital magazine reader. All of that really does support us and help us, and it's a big deal. So thank you for doing that. If you want to follow the guys here this week on social media, you can follow Marcus at Marcus Stewart 7 on Twitter. Are you active anywhere else, Marcus? I feel like there's been a lot of Twitter alternatives popping up. There's Instagram. Is that the place people should go follow you still?
Yeah, I'm not a big social media guy, so like Twitter is enough for me in terms of like what I would actually be willing to devote time to.
That's fair. That's fair.
I've thought about starting an Instagram, and I always go like, I would never check it because I barely check Twitter as it is.
Yeah. You can follow Charles at ChuckDuck365. Same for you, Charles, or are you a poster?
Yeah, I'm not much of a post. I feel like I used to be, but then I became There's a difference between posting like into the void and then having like people following you. Where I was like, oh, I don't want you guys to know my thoughts.
What?
Like your friends?
No, there is a difference though. Of like I was a regular Tumblr user for a very long time.
Yeah.
Well, I can see why you stopped.
But I only had like 2 people I knew following me that never interacted with my stuff, and it's so nice to just be like, oh, I had the worst day ever, blah blah blah, I hate this or whatever. Whereas on Twitter, it's like I don't want to complain about stuff. What if a developer sees that I didn't like their game? Golly,
I mean, they already see it if you write a bad review, technically. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you can follow Charles on Twitter at ChuckDuck365. You can also follow me at It's Van Aken on Twitter. And if you're on Instagram, I'm also there. I post photos from my travels there, just because I like cameras and that's a place to post photos. But yeah, go and follow the crew here. I'd love to talk to you about games, or if you have thoughts on the games we talked about today, let us know. And then lastly, go and listen to our Nintendo podcast, All Things Nintendo, hosted by Brian Shea. Comes out on Fridays, and it's a great show, so go and check that out. And lastly, shout out to Matt Storm, aka DJ Stormageddon. They are our podcast editor and do great work. Yeah, couldn't do it without them, so thank you, Matt. All right, let's get into this last section. We've got a listener question. Of course, if you want to ask us a question, you can send us an email, podcast@gameinformer.com, or join the Discord, which you get access to by subscribing to us on Twitch. And you can post your question in the Game Informer Show Discord. But yeah, this question was a leftover from last week we didn't have time to get to. JHerb24 says and asks, Halo Wars was a pretty sweet RTS. What game series would you love to see an RTS version of?
I've never played an RTS.
What?
Yeah, well, a lot of that is because that genre was exclusively PC for a long time, and I didn't grow up with a PC. In fact, we got our first computer when I was in high school, and that wasn't a gaming computer. And I didn't get my first computer to myself until I graduated high school. So a lot of PC stuff, I just wasn't exposed to it. So the closest RTS actually I ever played was Brutal Legend.
Hey, that's an RTS of sorts.
The band battle stuff. I know people say it's a bad RTS, but yes, so I don't know. Maybe I know what the genre is. So with
if someone theoretically didn't really know maybe what the genre was, did you maybe we want to say it for them?
Yeah,
give a brief explanation, just for a list, not someone on the podcast, because we all know we're all professionals. We all know it stands for
of course.
Real-time strategy.
Real-time strategy. Your StarCrafts, your Warcrafts, your Civ. Well, Civ is a 4X, but that's a subgenre of RTS. Your
a lot of units.
Your Age of Empires, your Halo Wars, your
kind of spawning in units on a map.
Spawning in units on a map, bird's eye view, collecting your units and, getting resources and building structures that enhance your armies. And
StarCraft is what's the meme? It's protect the pylons or build the pylons. That's like the StarCraft thing, right?
Yep. You're onto it.
I know that. Wrestling.
Perfect.
WWE 2K24 is just an RTS. It's just perfect. You just send them all out there, and it's just a faction war. I don't know.
Wrestlers?
Yeah, why not?
See, I always count city builders as real-time strategy as well. It's a non-combat real-time strategy, in my opinion. So I'm going to rehash an idea that I think is an excellent idea, and we need a Pokemon-themed city builder where you are building out your own region of Pokemon. You are building gyms, building towns, and managing economies and hiring Pokemon and their trainers to help you complete tasks. And I think that would be really cool. And for a multiplayer mechanic, you could have maybe your trainers from your region. Once they finish your region, they go off to other regions and come back with new Pokemon or like, that kind of thing. I think it'd be cool. I count city builders as RTS.
I was gonna say, I think that idea is amazing. Is that cheating? I was like, I don't know if I've ever, because I've played city builders. So does that mean I've played arts? Because I've never like considered those the same thing.
Real-time strategy. Same with city builders.
I mean, is that saying
strategy.
like Fire Emblem is also does that count too?
Well, that's turn-based, not real-time.
When I play Call of Duty, it's in real time, and I'm
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, point. I love Fortnite. There's a lot of real-time strategy in that. I'm constantly thinking.
Also a city builder if you're
if you're really good.
I'm gonna say and I think this is an RTS. I don't know if either of you have ever played Lego Star Wars 3: The Clone Wars.
I've not played it. I'm familiar with it.
There is a multiplayer mode in that, in which you each get a side of the field, and there's these little pockets, and you can run up and purchase different like types of units that will spawn and fight the other side of the field. And I loved that so much. They could get like big legions of like clones going out, and the other side would have like the droids, and then you could be the character running out on the field to like help them with stuff. So I would love to see just the next Lego Star Wars game is just a really, really big expansion to the one multiplayer mode in Lego Star Wars 3: The Clone Wars.
Perfect.
It's like Star Wars in general is a good answer, right?
Yeah. Just Lego Star Wars is a better answer, one might say.
Okay, you want the Lego aesthetic.
I think I'll stick to the main prompt. What if on the theme of this episode, I'm making sure I'm looking something up to make sure I'm right. What about a Dishonored themed RTS where you are building different districts of Dunwall, or maybe outside towns of Dunwall, and so you've got like the giant robots that you can research, and your defenses could be like the energy gates. They're fighting.
I guess there's other nations.
Yeah.
In the world,
yeah.
What are the bad?
And like your C units could be like whales that you tame, because it's like a whale punk kind of game. You could send assassins out and like be stealth, and like you could have like defenses and like set up like I don't know.
The tutorial is you're trying to stop a bunch of rats from getting into the barracks.
Oh yeah, maybe.
What if the next Final Fantasy game was an RTS, like Final Fantasy 17 RTS, and you just have like it's like their evolved version of Final Fantasy Tactics?
Okay,
that could be cool. People like what if they were like, hey, next level tactics? Now you have like an army of chocobos and knights on top of them, and you gotta protect the crystals instead of the pylons or whatever.
That could work.
It would be a pretty big. It would make sense.
You could definitely make that work.
Games are the template for that.
Yeah,
I like Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah, definitely.
That might be the same way Final Fantasy 14 makes me want to play an MMO for the first time. And I mean, I guess I have played it because I've never played MMOs besides that. I could see that would be the thing that would get me to play an RTS if they did a Final Fantasy version of it.
Fair. All right. Well, thank you for that question, J Herb. I'm
sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts RTS, Keyblade Wars.
Oh.
That's how the Keyblade graveyard happened.
Yeah.
It was like a zillion Keyblade users all charging into the Heartless.
That's pretty good.
I'm down.
Pretty good. Well, I think that's going to be the show this week, everybody. You can tell I'm kind of slouching. I'm kind of leaning back in my chair. If you're watching the video version, it's because it's time to go. It's time to log off and go play some games and go eat dinner and I think go to bed. Closing time. Thank you everybody for watching, for listening this week. We'll see you next Thursday. Don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That helps us out. All right, we'll see you later. Bye.